Star Wars tier list. Okay, let's go. So this is mainly going to be my opinion on all these. I'm going to have all the movies, and I'm also going to include some of the TV shows. It doesn't include Boba Fett for me right now, just because it's not complete. To start off, let's go with episode 1. I think that's going to be a C tier for me. For the time, the effects were good. They don't hold up today as I would like them to, but I mean, this is 1999. This does introduce some of the characters that we love. That introduces Anakin and Obi-Wan, but it also introduces some new characters which we haven't seen before, such as Darth Maul and Qui-Gon. But I think for the time, the movie is still good. I would say most of these movies, I am perfectly fine rewatching any day of the week. But this one I'd say is probably C tier for me. Next one, episode 2. Actually going to throw it in B. But after looking at it again, especially the Geonosis arena scene, plus adding in the clones, which adds in so much more content that we heard about in the original trilogy, really does it for me. There is some very cheesy parts. Let's not forget about this.
I don't like sand.
The effects in it to me still stand up to this. And especially me being a film student now and learning about how the certain stuff gets made, knowing that the whole arena scene is a model just really does it for me. Episode 3 of Revenge of the Sith. I'm sorry. This is my favorite Star Wars movie. Some people may disagree, but to me, this is just one of those movies where the hero just doesn't win. I know in episode 4 and 5, it's kind of the same deal, but this one is just like shit hits the fan and we just go for it. Like there's just nothing stopping you. This may be nostalgia talking too, but this to me is the best movie out of the whole franchise, and especially the prequels. I don't think that can be argued, at least out of the prequels for sure. Next, we have the Clone Wars animated movie. Now, this is, I believe, the original 4 episodes that were supposed to be in the Clone Wars. And I think with this, movie-wise, I would probably put it down here. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put it in C just because it introduces one of the best characters in the Clone Wars. I think this really introduces something that most Star Wars fans, I think, came to love, which was the Clone Wars. And we got 7 seasons of it, so I guess it was pretty popular. And with that, I would say Clone Wars S tier. You could make an argument that it may not be the best. Some episodes are slow, but I think Clone Wars is the best TV show we got, which is it's also the longest one we've gotten. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I think Clone Wars S tier. I don't think many people could argue with these top spots, but for me, it's S tier. I think first I'm gonna go with Solo. I know a lot of people didn't like this movie, which is to me maybe a bit unfair. I personally did like it. I like the actors in it. I think the new Han Solo, I would say pretty much every character that's remade, and even the ones that are introduced is pretty good in my opinion. Maybe the story was a little bit off, but I feel like overall, I think I'm gonna put it in C tier. And I will probably put it above the Clone Wars movie just because I think it is a little bit better than the Clone Wars movie. And then next is going to be Rogue One. This is probably the unanimous like best Disney made. Kind of going back and forth. I think it's probably going to be in B tier for me. I like the characters in it. I like the effects in it, which to me really helps. I like the cinematic side of things a lot. And like with Rogue One, I really think it's kind of bridging the gap. We can all rant on the Vader scene later, but it adds in characters we love, such as Vader and Tarkin, and even Leia at the very end. It really bridges the gap at the beginning of episode 4. And we're also getting an Andor show later, so maybe we'll get to see a little bit more content of that. But I think overall, Rogue One, solid B tier for me. Star Wars Rebels. It's definitely not as good as Clone Wars. It is some of the best animated that we've gotten. The animated style, I agree that I don't like as much as Clone Wars. But story-wise, I believe it introduces a lot of storylines that we maybe haven't thought of. And it has introduced my favorite Legends character back into canon, which is Thrawn. And to me, that's just the best. And for that reason, I know a lot of people don't like it, but it's going into B tier with me. The original trilogy, the stuff that started it all. But let's start it off. The original Star Wars, 1970s right here. Amazing effects for the time. Oh, sorry, not B tier. And introduces the story which we all love. So that's why to me it's going in A. Not S. I don't think it's as good, but to me it gets points for introducing characters and just a whole galaxy that we enjoy. But to me is not as good as some of the later movies that we got in the original trilogy. Empire Strikes Back. I'm not even going to say anything really. S tier for me. I think this is probably my favorite out of the original trilogy. And I can just say Hoth as a basic, just Hoth. It's a space battle on ground. You never really think about it at all like that, but that's that, and especially reading the books, not necessarily about the Battle of Hoth, but all the different Star Wars books. It's something that happens a decent amount with walkers or even land speeders and stuff like that. I think Empire Strikes Back really shows that with the Hoth battle, and all the other storylines has Boba Fett in it and introduces a lot of plot points which we're going to tie up in the next movie. And speaking of the next movie, Return of the Jedi, I think that's also probably going to be S tier for me also. It has Tatooine, Endor, and especially I know people don't like the special editions maybe as much, but I really do enjoy the end scene with Coruscant and Tatooine and all the different places celebrating at the end. I think it really brings the whole place together, especially after we get the prequels. But I think out of the original trilogy, it's just going to be a close second to Empire and a little bit better than A New Hope. Mandalorian, probably the most popular TV show on Disney Plus, and I think I'm probably gonna put it in A. Not because Grogu is so cute or anything like that, but it's just because it introduces kind of the not darker side, but the side that we've read about in a lot of the books. And if you didn't know, I'm a really big book reader, and Star Wars books are, to me, some of the best books that I've read over the past 5 years after I got into them. But The Mandalorian introduces us to a lot of the other sides of things. Plus, we get Mandalorians, which we all love, especially anybody that watched Clone Wars. It has cameos, fan service, and especially with now the Book of Boba Fett bringing Din back and the upcoming season 3, I think Mandalorian's going to turn out to be a good TV show and hopefully keeps on running for a while. Resistance, I didn't like the animated style. The story was okay. I'm putting it in D. Not as good as the Clone Wars or Rebels. And to me, the more drawn, I know it's not drawn, but the more drawn look style, I didn't like it as much. And it doesn't cover the same, like, maybe dark themes as Clone Wars and Rebels do. Force Awakens in C. Some people may be wanting to put it higher. Some people may be wanting to put it lower. I'm going to put it in C. Whenever I watched it in 2016, it really made me hopeful. It may not be the best movie that they were going to release, but it made me hopeful what was going to come. Yes, killing off some characters such as Han, whatever, big deal. But I'm kind of glad they steered away from the older characters. I know some people weren't happy from that, but I was glad that they were trying to introduce new characters. I just think it failed horribly. But I think with this movie, if they maybe would have cut it down, changed some story points, I believe it probably could have been B or A. But with what we got in the movies, and I know it probably shouldn't influence you, but the movies we got afterwards, I don't think I can rate it too much higher. But I will say, the effects in the movie, great. Starkiller base, amazing. The lightsaber effects, especially Kylo's, a little iffy. But from a cinematic point, I really do like the look of the film. For the moment you've all been waiting for, Last Jedi. I'm going to put it in, I'm just joking. I can't even joke like that. Okay, sorry, F. Yeah. I know people like to shit on this movie, but I'm not really going to shit on it cinematically. I think it looks fine, whatever. Story-wise, no. I mean, this is kind of what I think of the movie right here. It's just kind of a throwaway, especially with the last movie that they released. People blame the director, but I think story-wise, it's just not good at all. But this is the turning point on all Disney. I know everybody that grew up with the original trilogy hated the prequels, and people that grew up with the prequels hated the sequels. But I think this is just really the movie that kind of polarized everyone. And I don't think there's really that much explaining to it. I just don't think it was that good of a movie. And now Rise of Skywalker, I don't think it's good as Force Awakens. Some people might. I mean, sometimes the scenes are a little bit rushed, but I mean, and people know it's not as bad as Last Jedi, but I think I'm going to put it in the middle. I don't think necessarily it is a D movie. This is just my opinion. I would say C through S tier. Maybe not C so much. B through S, I'm rewatching these all the time. Like if I have nothing to turn on, we're gonna throw on a movie or an episode of Rebels, Clone Wars, or Mandalorian, something. And then out of C tier, we'll throw on most of them. Maybe not the Clone Wars movie so much, just because it's fairly bland and I know what happens because I've seen it so many times. But this movie, Rise of Skywalker, I really just don't like rewatching the movie. I know that sounds bad, but like I would honestly probably rewatch Last Jedi before I watched this just to kind of laugh if I'm honest. But I like how it tries to wrap stuff up. It's definitely better than what we got with Last Jedi. And I mean, I'm putting it above Resistance, but I think with that, like it's not anything special. It tries to tie up some loose ends, I guess. But I think the way that it's just portrayed, that it's just not the best in my opinion. Okay, so back, and I think this is probably going to be my final ranking. S tier, Revenge of the Sith, Empire, followed by Clone Wars, and then a close Return of the Jedi. I had a tough time trying to determine between the two. But I think with how much content has stemmed from it and just the whole storyline of it, I think Clone Wars goes above Return of the Jedi for me. Maybe not everybody, but this is probably nostalgia speaking too. I think this is going to be my tier list for all the Star Wars movies. And I think I'm going to be doing a series over me going over the novelizations of each movie. And also, I'll be going over some of the Legends books and even some of the canon books that Star Wars has released, such as the new Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, which in my opinion is pretty good, and some of the other Legends books like Darth Bane, Old Republic, stuff like that. But anyway, thank you for watching, and be on the lookout for some more movie, book, and related subjects. Anyway, thanks for watching.